explained you the things, and it is to refresh and revise through reading. Ji Joseph Ahmed.
Yes, sir. Prayer Salat, meaning and importance of prayer. Prayer is an exhibition of one's faith. 5 daily prayers establish a believer's strong and direct communication with Allah. 5 daily obligatory prayers are the prescribed means of spiritual progress on a daily basis. The second pillar of Islam is prayer. It literally means to supplicate and to pray. Prayer in Islam means to worship Allah 5 times a day. As taught by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, prayer is an important pillar of Islam. Allah Almighty says, "Verily I am Allah, there is none worthy or worship but me, so worship me and establish prayer for my remembrance." Therefore, it is obligatory on every Muslim, whether he is rich or poor, old or young, man or woman, ill or healthy, to perform prayer. Prayer prevents Muslims from shameful and indecent acts. It is a strong and effective shield against evil deeds. Allah Himself says in the Holy Quran, undoubtedly, the prayer forbids one from indecency and evil thing. Chapter 29, verse 45. Prayer is a regular means of purifying both body and soul. The ablutions before the prayer with fresh water act as a refresher and cleanser. The prayer itself purifies the soul from arrogance and hypocrisy, shirk, and kufr. The Holy Prophet ﷺ likened a person who regularly performed prayer to a person who washes himself regularly in a stream of clean running water 5 times a day. Prayer makes Muslims punctual. There are set timings for the prayers, and they cannot be offered either both or after the time. Thus, it teaches punctuality, which is very essential quality in order to lead a successful life. Prayer refreshes faith. The various recitations in the prayer remind Muslims of their commitments to their God. It refreshes the belief of the worshipper in the day of judgment and enlivens in his memory the fact that Muslims have to appear before their Lord and give an account of their entire life. 5 times daily, Muslims submit to their Lord and renew their covenant with Him. Thus, the frequency and timings of the prayers do not let Muslims forget the real purpose of their life in the maze of worldly activities. Prayer creates the best discipline in Muslim society, and it also teaches sympathy, love, equality, and unity. When Muslims stand behind an imam who leads the prayer in congregational prayers, they demonstrate strict discipline and unity. This regular practice indeed makes and obedient to them disciplined and obedient to one leader. In addition, these congregational prayers diminish the distances of high and low ranks, weak and strong, scholar and illiterate, king and beggar, rich and poor, and ruler and ruled. Furthermore, congregational prayers help Muslims know the affairs of one another. 5 daily prayers, Friday prayer, and Eid prayers provide the best opportunities to solve the social problems of a Muslim community. This also leads to cooperation and brotherhood amongst them. Daily prayers prepare Muslims for the observance of a life of virtue and obedience to God. It refreshes the faith from which springs forth courage, sincerity, purposefulness, purity of heart, advancement of the soul, and enrichment of morals.
Thank you, Joseph Ahmed. You see, this portion which is read by you, if you have seen the mark scheme, you might have seen a question about this portion. And you might be questioned to write about the importance of the prayer, any meanings and the importance of the prayer. So the stuff is here for that particular question. Now the preparations for prayer. Muhammad Arslan Abbas, can you hear me? Muhammad Arslan Abbas, can you hear
Yes,
me? So you will read for us about the preparations of the prayer.
sir, can you tell me which page?
With me, this is page number 252. I think you might have a different page number. Huzaifa Ahmed, can you tell him the page number?
Sir, mine is also 252.
So if you have the same book, then page number is 252. Muhammad Arslan Abbas.
Which page, sir? Can you tell again? 252.
252.
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Preparations for the prayer. Wudu. Wudu is the prescribed method of physical purification for the obligatory prayers and worship. Wudu is divinely revealed method of purification. Wudu purifies both human body and soul. Wudu is an act of worship that gets believers' minor sins forgiven. Udu Ablation is essential for performing prayer. Offering prayer without wudu is haram, unlawful, and an extremely sinful act. The Holy Prophet said, "The key to paradise is prayer, and the key to prayer is purification, wudu." Wudu is the act of washing those parts of the body which are generally exposed. It is performed in the following manner. First, all make sure that the water with which wudu is to be performed is pure, clean, and fresh, not used before. Its color, taste, and smell are unchanged. Make an intention of performing the wudu for offering prayer and recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wash both hands up to the wrist 3 times, passing the fingers between each other. Cleanse the mouth with a brush or finger and gargle with water 3 times. Sniff the water into the nostrils thrice and use the little finger of the left hand for cleaning. Wash the face from the forehead to the chin bone and whatever is the face in between the two ears 3 times. Wash the right arm followed by the left from the tips of finger to the elbows 3 times. Wipe the whole head with wet hands. Pass the wet tips of the index finger inside the wet tips of the thumb encircling outside the ears. Pass over the other surface of the hands over the nape and the sides of the neck. 9. Wash the feet up to the ankles, the right foot first and then the left, taking care to wash in between the toes each 3 times. At the end of the steps, complete the wudu, recite اللهم اجعلني من التوابين واجعلني من المتطهرين. O Allah, make me one of those who repent for their sins and make me one of those who keep themselves pure. And أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah who is one, who has no partners, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and apostle. So do I read even more?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Obligatory acts of wudu. Allah Almighty says in the Holy Quran, O you who believe and you prepare for prayer, wash your faces and your hands and arms to the elbows, rub your heads with water, and wash your feet to the ankles. Hence, the obligatory acts in the performance of wudu. Washing the face, washing both arms from the tips of the finger up to the elbows, wiping a quarter of the head with wet hands, washing both feet up to the ankles. Voiding acts of wudu. Following acts or circumstances invalidate the wudu. Answering the call of nature, discharge of semen or issue of worm or sandy stone or impure matter. The passage of wind. Vomiting a mouthful of matter. Emission of blood or pus from a wound to such an extent that it passes the limits of the mouth of the wound. Loss of consciousness through sleep, drowsiness, etc. Temporary insanity, fainting, or intoxication. Audible laughter during prayer.
Thank you, Mohammed Aslan Abbas, for reading this part. And you should know you might be asked to write about the method of wuzu. So these steps you will be required to write in the answer. You might have seen some question in the mark scheme as well.
Yes, sir.
And now I'll ask Muhammad Daniel to read further. Muhammad Daniel, can you hear me? Muhammad Daniel, can you hear me? Muhammad Daniel, can you hear me? Muhammad Ahmed Siddiqui, can you hear me? Muhammad Ahmed Siddiqui, can you hear me? Muhammad Hassan Abid, do you hear me? Muhammad Hassan Abid. Muhammad Rehan Kashif. Muhammad Rehan Kashif, can you hear me?
Again, I read.
Muhammad Abdurrahman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Read for us about this topic
Sir,
about ghusl. How do we do that?
sir, I don't have the book.
Why not? What happened to your book?
Sir, it lost 2 days before.
Oh, oh. Zain Ahmed Irfan, can you read?
Yes, sir. Ghusl bath. Islam
No,
encourages
you read, but slowly.
Okay, sir. Ghusl
You
bath.
use
Islam
and
encourages
wherever you see there is a full stop or a comma, so you have to observe that.
Islam encourages believers to keep their bodies clean, especially when some impurity is discharged. Generally, bath is of three kinds: obligatory, and desirable. Ghusl bath is performed by the person who is in a state of major impurity which is caused due to material relations,
ये क्या लफ्ज है? What is this
discharge,
word? Which relation?
marital relations, discharge of effusion of semen, mens- menstruation, or the period of childbirth. The best way of performing ghusl is the person should have the niyat intention to cleanse the body from major impurity. At the time of performing the bath, he should wash the hands up to the wrists, thrice. Then parts must be washed thoroughly thrice. Filth must be removed if there is any from any of the parts of the body. He should then perform the ablution, and lastly, he should wash thrice all the parts of the body, including the hair, thoroughly. Water should reach every part of one's body. The obligatory conditions that must be fulfilled for a valid performance of an obligatory ghusl are: number one, to rinse the mouth thoroughly so that the parts are washed properly. Number two, to sniff the water into the nostrils right up to the nasal bone. Number three, to wash all the parts of the body thoroughly, including the hair.
Thank you for reading this part. Uh, Hassan Abid, do you hear me? Muhammad Hassan Abid. And Zian Kaleem Khan has joined the class now after 20 minutes. Zian Kaleem, is it the time to join the class?
No, sir.
It's very sad. Muhammad Daniel, do you hear me? Hassan Abid, do you hear me? Muhammad Rehan Kashif, do you hear me? Noor Muhammad Khan, read for us about the Tayammum.
Okay, sir. Tayammum is the divine order to satisfy one's daily practice and habit of using water for ablution. Tayammum highlights the significance of Islam as the natural religion which helps every individual in every situation. Tayammum is to ease the problem of people suffering from shortage of water. In circumstances where water cannot be found or it is injurious to health, in such situations tayammum, ablution can be performed in place of wuzu or ghusl. Allah Almighty says, if you are ill or on a journey, and if you do not yet find any water, then take clean earth or sand and rub it on your faces and hands. Allah does not wish to put you in difficulty, but to make you clean. The essential requisites for the performance of tayammum are to have the intention and mind to perform the tayammum for the removal of impurities. Place both hands lightly on the earth, sand, stone, or any other object made up of sand or having dust on it. Blow the dust off the hands and wipe the face with them once in the same way as done in wuzu. Once again place both hands on the sand and wipe the right arm from the tips of the fingers up to the elbow with the left hand and similarly left arm with the right hand. Finish with the same du'as at the end of ablution. All voiding acts of wuzu also invalidate tayammum, but in addition tayammum is nullified as soon as the cause of performing it is removed, i.e. that is if the sick person recovers or if recourse has been taken for lack of water and access to water becomes possible.
Ji, thank you very much. And boys, you see, this was wuzu, ghusl, and tayammum. These are the methods to purify yourself before start of the salah. If needed, you will do the ghusl, and if there are some reasons, you can do tayammum. But you see, you can be asked by the examiner to write about the preparations for the prayer. So, and on the same time, the conditions of the prayer. So you will simultaneously tell what are the conditions for the prayer, uh, which are given on page number 259. And Similarly, preparation of the prayer that suggests that you will talk about the wuzu first of all. You will briefly write the procedure of wuzu and procedure of ghusl and the procedure of tayammum. And then whatever is asked, you will relate that portion. So now the next part I will ask Muhammad Ashar Nadeem to read for us. Muhammad Ashar,
Yes, sir.
read further better.
So Azan.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Azan. Call for Azan is the divine anthem of Islamic belief. Azan carries the complete message of Islam. Azan is a symbol of Islam and unity of Muslims all over the world. Azan is the first call to prayer. It is uttered in a loud voice to announce to the faithful that it is time for the obligatory prayer and invite them to offer it. It is the sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ to call out the Azan for the 5 daily prayers and the Friday prayer. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, Allah and His angels pray upon those in the first rows, and the caller to the prayer is forgiven for as far as his voice reaches, and whoever hears him will confirm what he says. He will get a reward similar to those who pray with him. Musnad Ahmad Imam Ahmad. A person who calls people for the congregational prayer is called a muezzin. Before saying the azan, he should stand facing Holy Kaaba. He should raise his hands to his ears, putting the tips of the forefingers into his ears, and call in a loud voice of the following words, pausing after every phrase: Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. The following narration is added after phrase 5 in the Azan of Fajr prayer. As-salatul khairu min an-nawm. Prayer is better than sleep. Azan is recited by men only. Azan given by a female is not valid. It is not permissible to call out azan for a prayer before the beginning of the time of that particular prayer. Such azan will not be valid. When the believers hear the azan, they should listen to it in silence and repeat each phrase of the azan in silence immediately after the muezzin has finished saying the phrase. And then when the muezzin says Hayya ala salah and Hayya al falah, the listener should say in reply, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. When the azan is complete, the listener and the muezzin recite the root onto the Holy Prophet ﷺ, followed by the dua. Allahumma rabba hadid dawat tamat salatu qaima ati Muhammadan wasilatal fazilata wa darajata rafiha بعز ما قم محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لتخلف الميعاد.
I
Oh
read,
Lord.
Muhammad Ashar, I read for you.
Okay, sir.
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعث مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. Read the translation.
O Allah, Lord of this perfect call and the prayer to be offered presently, grant Muhammad Sallallahu the way of approach unto Thee, and also eminence, and raise him onto the glorious station Thou hast promised him, and bestow his intercession on us on the day of judgment. Verily, Thou never go back on Thy word.
Mhm.
Significance of Azan. The Azan is not only expressive of its aim and purpose, but also richly, melodiously, and eloquently imbued with the spirit and the concept of divine unity. The Azan proclaims the glory and greatness of Allah, that He is the greatest. It contains both the fundamental affirmations of divine unity and apostleship of the Prophet ﷺ, and includes the summons to prayer. It also declares that prayer is the way to felicity in both the worlds, and success and salvation cannot be attained without it. Owing to these special features, the Azan has become a complete and comprehensive call and proclamation of faith, which instinctively appeals to the heart and the mind.
Mhm.
Iqamat. Iqamat is the second call to congregational prayer establishment. Wordings of Iqamat are the same as that of Azan, with the exception of indeed prayer has begun. Iqamat is the second call to prayer and is uttered immediately before the beginning of the obligatory prayer offered with the congregation. It is similar to the Azan but with the condition of the following sentence. قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةُ Prayer has indeed begun. This has to be uttered twice after Hayy al-Salah, Hayy al-Falah.
Thank you very much, Muhammad Ashar Nadeem, for your contribution. Now I'll ask Sayyid Mubashir to read further about the conditions for offering prayer. Sayyid Mubashir.
Yes, sir. The essential conditions for offering prayer. It is a must to fulfill every condition of prayer. Deliberately missing any one of the conditions will make your prayer void. Following are the essential requests for offering prayer. The worshipper must be Muslim. One. Number two. The worshipper's clothes and body must be free from all impurities. The place where the prayer is to be offered should be clean. 4. The part of the body between the navel and the knees of a male worshipper must be covered fully, and the whole must be fully covered, and the whole body except the hands and face of the female worshipper must be fully covered. The worshipper must face the holy Kaaba. The worshipper must form a niyyah intention in his or her mind of the particular prayer, false, obligatory, in sunnah or nafil, optional, he or she is about to offer. The worshipper 7. The worshipper must observe the times and the rules prescribed for the prayer. 8. The worshipper must perform wudu or ghusl if he was in a state of a major impurity.
Uh, just hold on, Bashar Hussain. You see, sometimes the examiner they ask you to write about the preparations of the Muslim for Salah, and what Muslims do, what they make sure before the start of Salah. So in that case, you will be required to talk about these conditions of the prayer. So whenever you see a question, first of all, you should know what the question is demanding. So be very particularly sure what you have to write in the answer, because for getting good grade, relevance is very important. Now the time is the prayer. Uh, Ahmed Nawaz, can you read further? Muhammad Kundi, can you read further? Abdurrafe, read further. Abdurrafe, do you hear me? Abdurrafe, do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So read further, beta. I'm asking you to read further times of the prayer.
Okay, sir. So significance of Azan.
No, no. Times of prayer.
Okay, sir. Times of prayer. Allah has prescribed time for each obligatory prayer. The Holy Prophet ﷺ would always offer his prayer, Salah, in the prescribed time. 5 daily obligatory prayers are offered at their prescribed times. They cannot be offered before their timings. The appointed time of Fajr prayer begins from break of Subh Subh Sadiq dawn and ends at sunrise. The times for Zohar prayer begins from the inclination of the sun to the west until the shadow of everything becomes double than the shadow at noon. The time of Asr prayer begins where the Zohar time ends and lasts till sunset, and the time for Maghrib begins from the sunset till the disappearance of evening twilight. Maghrib time lasts for at most 1.5 hours after Maghrib's Azan. Isha time begins after the evening twilight has vanished and lasts till before the dawn of Fajr.
Okay, read further.
Fajr. So should I read the chart?
Yeah, yeah, do it.
Fajr from dawn till just before sunset. Zohar after midday till until afternoon. Asr from late afternoon until just before sunset. Maghrib after sunset until daylight ends. Isha night until midnight or dawn. Number of rakats. Prayer Fajr. Fard 2. 2 before Fard. Zohar 4 Fard. 2 before Fard. 4 before Fard. 2 after. Asr 4. 4 before Fard, Maghrib 3, 2 after Fard, 2, Nafil 2,
Also mention this column number 4. What is the heading of column number 4?
Sunnah Ghair Muakkada.
No, column 4 is Sunnat Muakkada.
So I'm reading it.
No, you're reading it, but you are not telling what you are reading.
Okay, so prayer Maghrib Fard 3, Sunnah Muakkada 2 after Fard, Nafil 2, Isha Fard 4, Witr 3, Sunnah Muakkada 2 after Fard, Sunnah Ghair Muakkada 4 before Fard, Nafil 2 plus 2.
Okay, what is the difference between Sunnat Muakkada and Ghair Muakkada? So Sunnah Muakkada is a must. Sunnah
Compulsory.
Muakkada is a must, yani you have to offer this. We must offer that. And Sunnah Ghair Muakkada we can offer and we can skip. Yani this is optional. So as for the performance of 1 unit of prayer is concerned, we will read from this topic in the next lesson, inshallah. Thank you very much, boys. Allah Hafiz. May Allah bless you all. Take a good care of yourselves and be kind to everybody.
Hafiz.
Allah